From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine. Happy 2017, our first OpenLine of the new year. And our guest is someone who is a regular. Happy to have him back, who can answer your questions about an issue that may have come up over the holidays. How do you care for an aging loved one? Happy to have with us Tim Takis, elder law attorney. Tim, thank you for being here.
Great. Good to be back. Hope your holiday was good.
Oh, yeah. Great. Very good holiday.
It's always a busy one for us, I know, when we have people coming back like from Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we start getting calls and people going, I need to get powers of attorney in place. I need to do this and do that. And so, yeah, it's a big deal for us.
So the people that come through your door now, is it in some way related to the holidays? Did they see that mom or dad maybe might need to start thinking about the future?
Sometimes I think that's what happens. I sometimes also think that maybe you're sort of marking another year. It's like, okay, another year went by, and then it's like, maybe we really need to start putting a plan in place. So rather than just going, well, we were there for the holiday and we saw how things were not doing well. But I'm sure that comes into play as well. So, definitely, having a new year roll around sometimes spurs people to get something going.
And of course, what we want to do is have you call in with your situation. Tim will be happy to answer whatever question you may have. There's the number at the bottom of the screen. When we start talking about this issue, we're talking about the high cost of nursing home care.
Right.
What are we talking about there?
Okay.
How
high
expensive?
Cost of nursing home care usually runs around $7,000 to $8,000 a month, sometimes $9,000 to $10,000, depending upon what nursing home that you're in. Even assisted living costs, people like a couple rungs down from the care, maybe $5,000 or $6,000 a month. If you need memory care, and I know some people, we always get calls from people who, well, my mom's not doing well, she has dementia or Alzheimer's disease, and they have questions about that, and we talk about, a memory care facility for your loved one generally run around $5,000 or $6,000, and of course, financing care is a big deal for our clients and our families. How are we going to pay for this? Where should the money come from? Does Medicaid pay for this, or the 10 Care Choices program? Does the VA pay for it? All those sorts of questions that we have. Does Medicare pay? What can they expect from the government, or what kind of help? A lot of those are questions that we get.
And at what point are they coming to see you? Is it when they're planning for the future and mom and dad are okay, or mom and dad maybe not okay?
Well, here's kind of give an idea of like what we literally this married couple that came in today, husband and wife, and they're in their early 80s, and the husband has had 2 heart attacks and a stroke, and he's kind of slow, but they're starting to worry, and the wife is in good health, and one only child, the daughter, comes in and says, well, I was talking to one of my neighbors who had helped, you had helped their family, and so they came in and we talked about, they were worried about, can they stay at home? How long are they going to be able to stay at home? What would happen to the money if the husband went into the nursing home, which he says, well, I'm not going to the nursing home. And it's like, well, we still have to plan for that. What happens if one spouse dies first?
Right.
Should estate planning change in those circumstances? Because, people don't really know for sure. They just know they need to do something. Like the husband is, say, doing okay, but he probably really, maybe not really could live by himself. And what happens if his wife would die first? Who would be taking care of him? Would it be the daughter? Should she leave his money to him? Should they give away their money or property to the daughter? All of those questions that come up.
Sure.
And they really don't know they don't know the answers because, they haven't done this before.
Right.
They hear a lot of different things and they realize that, well, maybe they need to talk to somebody that, that does this stuff every day.
Which is a very good idea. Yeah, they hear that the nursing home would take the money, take your house, or they hear they should give money
away,
give money to a child or whatever,
right.
and we can talk about all that. Yeah. Also, trusts and wills.
Right? Should they set, like that was a question they had today? Should we set up an irrevocable trust, or should we do another type of trust? All of those questions that come up.
Well, let's go to Ben here. I like your name, Ben.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
I've got a piece of property that my tax basis in it is fairly low, but I'm thinking about selling it, and it's probably worth 5 to 10 times what I paid for it. But I'm also thinking about wanting to give this possibly give the proceeds to my children. And I was wondering what would be the capital gains implications, or is there any way, do I have any tax advantage by giving that to my children?
Okay.
And having them get the proceeds of that versus me selling it and giving the money.
Right. So what Ben says is that he's got a piece of property, and let's say that he bought the property, 25 years ago, and he paid $10,000 for it. All right. That's what we would call the tax basis. And he says now 25 years later, it's worth maybe $100,000. So if he sells it, that piece of property, and if it's not his homestead where he can take an exclusion, but if he sells that piece of property, he's going to have $90,000 in a capital gain. That's the difference between what it's worth and what he paid for it. So good for him, right? He makes money, but he's also got to pay taxes. And I think that the capital gains rate is, I think maybe someone will call in and tell me, but it's around 17 to 18%. So he sells it for $90,000, and then the federal government gets, say, almost 20% of that, and then the rest of it he pockets.
Right.
All right. Now, but if he gives that piece of property to his children, they also get the tax basis.
So if he gives it to his children, they wouldn't be taxed if they sold it for $100,000. They wouldn't be taxed on that 90.
Yes, they would, because he gets when he transfers the property to them, that has a tax basis of $10,000. He also transfers the tax basis to them, which is $10,000.
Okay.
So then, if his children turn around and sell it, then they're going to have a $90,000 capital gain, and maybe that's part of I think what Ben needs to look at is would it be better for the children to sell, and then the capital gain is theirs and it's their tax rate as opposed to his. And then that starts, then you start talking about, well, maybe we need to talk to an accountant or somebody that's doing the taxes for Ben as well as maybe for his children. Now, sometimes I often say is that death has advantages, and one of the advantages that you get is that you get a step up in tax, what's called a step up. So Ben says, well, I don't really know what I should do. I'm going to hold it for a while, but then Ben dies, and the property is worth $100,000. Well, his children inherit it at the $100,000, what it's worth at the time of his death.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then they turn around and thanks, Dad, for not giving it to us. Great. Now we can sell it. Got $100,000, and they pocket $100,000, and there's no capital gain.
Then it seems it would be almost always wrong to give it. I guess you can't say always, but there wouldn't be
you have to think about, okay, what's the purpose for giving it away?
Right.
Why does he think that's important to do that now? I mean, maybe they need it. Maybe he gives them the property, and they're figuring, well, they never planned to sell it, or that's not really in the cards. Then there's really no capital gain. It's not ever.
They're never going to sell it.
If never going to sell it, or at least it's going to hold it for an extended period of time.
Then they hold on to it for another 25 years.
And then when they pass away, then their children will get a step up at that time.
Okay. Right.
So that's the kind of thing where. We always say is that when you give away money or property, or there's a transfer of title of an asset from one person to another, there's almost always some tax implications, and they have to be considered, when we are planning for somebody.
And so Ben maybe is planning for himself, or Ben's children are planning for him. How does this property fit into that? Is that a big part?
That's what he has to think about is how does it, do I need this piece of property? Do my children need it more than I do? Is this an asset which is really important for me, and for them to gift to them, whether it's the proceeds, because, there are a lot of families out there that are holding, they've got this, this property that's sitting over there, and they're going, I really don't know what to do with it, but it's not doing me any good. I might as well sell it and give the cash to my kids.
Right.
Maybe that's it. So all those things come into play.
Well, let's take another call before we go to break. Thank you, Ben. Let's take another call. Let's go to Jeanette. Hello, Jeanette.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
He was just talking about capital gains, and he started to say something about the primary residence.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, but
hello.
Yes, I'm here. Keep talking.
Okay. I was wanting to know, my mother's selling her primary residence because she doesn't want to live alone anymore.
Yes. Right, so when your mother sells that property, and if it's been her primary residence, then she can exclude the capital gain.
Right.
Now there is a cap on that, and it's $250,000. I think it goes up, and there's some more complicated rules now. It used to be very simple. You could only exclude one time during your life.
Okay.
You know, and you have to be 55 and older before you could exclude. Now you can. You can exclude. It was for old people that were like selling their last house.
Right.
I think that was the theory. But now you can sell a house whether maybe you're 30 years old, and if you decide if there's a capital gain and you don't reinvest it in another homestead, that's really the key thing.
Right.
That's why the capital gains exclusion when you sell a homestead is important, because most people, I shouldn't say most, but as you know, a lot of people, they buy a modest house, they live in it for a while, and then they sell, and then they buy a little larger house, they put the money back into the house, so they're not, so they get the capital gains exclusion by putting it back into a homestead.
Right.
And if they choose not to put it into a homestead, where they just put the money in the bank account because I'm tired of being a homeowner. There's a certain amount that you can exclude.
They're going to pay taxes. Oh,
Yeah.
sir. All right, now does that answer your question, Jeanette?
Does she have to put it back into a homestead?
Now she can exclude. I'm thinking it's like $250,000 of capital gain. So let's say that she bought the primary residence for $100,000, and then she sells it for $350,000. Well, there's a $250,000 capital gain, and if she chooses not to put it back into a homestead, she can exclude all that. It's not subject to capital gain. That's one of those little things that I would recommend. Anytime somebody's starting to have those questions, that's when they need to talk to their accountant,
Right.
or whoever that helps them with their taxes, because it's almost always depends upon their individual tax situation.
Right.
What is their current tax rate? What other income do they have? All of those sorts of things.
All right, we have to take a quick break. Then we'll come back. If you're on the line, hold on, and we will get to your call. If you want to call in, a few lines are open. There is the number, 615-737-PLUS. 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.